The Whispering Woods. On the edge of a forgotten village stood the ancient Everglen Forest, a place steeped in stories of things that went bump in the night. The locals avoided it, especially as Halloween drew near. They said the trees whispered to one another when the wind was just right, and those who ventured in never came back the same. Some didn't come back at all. One cold Halloween evening, a group of daring teens decided to test the legend. Four friends, Anna, Mark, Sarah, and Jake, had grown tired of the village's old tales. They laughed them off and made a pact to explore the woods under the moon's eerie light. Armed with flashlights and a sense of invincibility, they stepped into the shadows of the trees. At first, the forest was quiet, almost too quiet. Their footfalls echoed as they ventured deeper, the tall pines casting long, crooked shadows in the pale moonlight. Soon, a fog began to creep in, curling around their ankles like cold fingers. "I don't like this," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible. "Maybe we should turn back." "Don't be a scaredy cat," Mark replied, dismissing her concerns. "It's just a forest. There's nothing here." But as they walked, the silence grew heavier, suffocating. It was as if the very woods themselves were watching, waiting. Then came the whispers. At first, they thought it was the wind, but the sound was too deliberate, too close. A voice, soft and sibilant, echoed through the trees. "Leave. Leave now," it hissed. The group froze, their blood running cold. Anna gripped her flashlight tighter, her hands trembling. "Did you hear that?" Jake asked, his voice shaky. But before anyone could answer, the voice came again, louder this time. "Leave. Leave. Or stay forever." A sudden rustling behind them made them spin around. There was nothing there, just the dense fog and the dark shapes of the trees. But the whispering continued, growing more frantic, more desperate. "You should not be here! You should not be here!" Panic set in. Mark began to walk faster, his breath coming in short gasps. "We need to go." Now the others followed, their fear growing with each step. But the forest had other plans. The trees seemed to close in on them, the path ahead growing narrower. The whispers grew louder, almost as if they were circling around them, closing in. Suddenly Anna stopped, her eyes wide in terror. "Look!" she screamed, pointing ahead. At the center of the clearing stood an old, twisted tree, its bark gnarled and black as coal. Beneath it lay something that made their stomachs turn. Bones, dozens of them, scattered like dry leaves at the base of the tree. The ground around the tree was unnaturally black, as though something had drained the life from it. "No, no, no," Sarah whimpered, clutching Mark's arm. The wind picked up again, carrying with it the voice, now shrieking in fury. "You are too late. You should not have come." The ground beneath their feet seemed to tremble, the bones rattling in response. Suddenly, the sky darkened, and the moon disappeared behind thick clouds. In the eerie silence that followed, the whispers ceased, but the air was thick with something unnatural, something watching them. The tree's shadow stretched longer, its gnarled roots seemingly reaching out to claim them. Jake turned and ran, the others in tow. They stumbled through the dense fog, their breaths ragged, hearts pounding in their chests. Every rustle of the leaves sounded like footsteps behind them. The forest seemed to warp around them, making it impossible to find their way out. Finally, they burst out of the woods, breathless and shaking. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of the village. The door to the local inn slammed shut behind them, and they stood there, wide-eyed and panting, their hearts still racing. For a long time, they said nothing. Then Anna spoke in a hoarse voice. "The bones. They were from the villagers, the ones who went missing years ago." Sarah shuddered. We shouldn't have gone in there." But it was Mark who broke the silence, his face pale as a ghost. The worst part, the worst part is, I think we heard them. The voices. They were still out there, still waiting. And that Halloween, the village was quieter than ever before. for the trees of Everglen were always listening, and the whispers never stopped.